Yeah, God exists, gang. God existing up in here. We got God existing up in this B. Is there already a request? Who's requested? Welcome, guest.
Yeah, I'm not gonna argue against God, but like I always hear about like the same 4 or 5 tired ass arguments where it's like, oh, the Shroud of Turin, or oh, like I don't even know. They're just so lame brained and so overused. But like, I feel like the most pertinent arguments would have to be like concurrent scientific sort of evidence. And I feel like the cutting edge of evidence, like it always sort of like hints towards like a God, and like the observer phenomena in quantum physics, like if that sort of thing is true, where like the mind projects reality, like you know how they say like you create your own reality by like just observing like light particles, and then they like snap into place and form different forms and stuff. But like if you die, reality continues. So that means that there's an external mind that's creating this observer effect, something like that's observing everything beyond like all the individual beings, you know.
Right.
But I never hear people say that. Like I'm always in these things, and it's always the same stupid argument. Like people will just argue the same stupid thing back and forth. It's like if a shroud is real or not, it's not going to prove anything. Like it's so annoying.
Well, I make a transcendental argument for God, where I'm going to say that like God is necessary for evidence at all, is like a foundational belief. And so to deny God would be to deny like evidence, and therefore do the impossibility of the contrary, that like God necessarily exists, like specifically the Christian God.
Well, also, like I've heard a different interpretation of the word atheist. Like I think we should call people that don't believe in God anti-theist, because they believe that there is no possibility of something like God, which is anti-theist. But an atheist, I think, is somebody that lives their life without finding the question relevant. You know what I mean? Like, it's just like, it's almost like agnostic, but it's like, why would I care about God? I just carve wood. You know what I mean? Like, that's an atheist.
Well, like, obviously, it's to add the question, like, does God exist? I mean, that's a very relevant question, because
Not
if it's the
everybody
case
asks
that
that.
God,
Not everybody needs to be asking that question. Like, a lot of people have a lot of different things to do in their life.
no, everyone asks that question. That's why there's so many religions, and most people believe in God.
Yeah, but there's also a lot of trades that involve a lot of work that takes a lot of energy. Like, people don't have the energy to think about these philosophical things. You know, they just have the energy to get up, make their food, go to work, do their best, get home, you know, and try to find peace in what's in front of them, you know, and these are like highly philosophical concepts that we have the privilege to even touch on.
Okay, so I'm not. What's your point?
I'm just saying that it's good to sort of hammer out the nuances in different sort of experience, like people's different perspectives. You know, it's like, I don't think, like, I think that there, like, a lot of people go their whole lives without really thinking about it, and those are the atheists. The anti-theists are the ones that are arguing with you.
Okay.
The atheists are just out there living their lives without even thinking.
Sure.
So I don't know. I'm just frustrated that I can't get into like the more popular streams to say my quantum physics thing, but I don't know. I can leave you alone.
I'm not really into the quantum physics stuff. I don't really.
Well, I mean, I think it's like a field of research, you know, and there's more growing towards it. But like studying the Shroud of Turin, like, you're not going to get anywhere just looking at a fucking piece of cloth. Like, that's just retarded.
Yeah, you got to make a, because the debate between atheism and theism, it takes place at a foundational or like metaphysical level, because we disagree over like what makes something possible or impossible, essentially, or what is ultimate reality. That's where the disagreement lies. So that's what we have to like discuss. And at a foundational level, the only way you can like prove your position is just to compare it to the other person's position and do like a internal critique.
Yeah, people need to pass notes amongst each other more. Like, people need to be more open about how they get to where they're going and all that. But anyway, see ya.
Yeah. All right, thanks. The hell? I don't. I kind of like. I've banned people. You're not allowed to talk about quantum physics on my live, because I think that stuff is just like nonsense. Not really interested in hearing about quantum physics. Welcome. I made that clip that you asked for.
Oh yeah, I saw it, but I haven't had the chance to look at it. But thank you. I'll check that out definitely. Yeah. So as you know, I was here last night, but I didn't get to finish because I had a couple of things to ask you. So I was the other person that was a part of the live last night. He was saying, like, when you left, he was saying that you had like some like evidence, like some like, I was like, can you tell me some like some solid evidence, proofs that like God exists? And he was like, I can't tell you them, but the host can. So I wanted to know, like, what was the evidence proofs that you had that you could tell me?
It's like philosophical evidence. I make a logical argument, like a transcendental argument, that God is necessary for evidence at all, like as a foundation. Because like for evidence, for us to be able to have evidence that something's true, there's going to be certain things need to be the case. Other things have to be true, because evidence is only possible. And for evidence to be possible, certain things have to be true, basically. And one of those things is like the Christian God. So like denial of the Christian God would be a denial of evidence because there's like this necessary relationship between the Christian God and evidence.
Um, sorry, I'm not trying to like, nitpick what you're saying, but like, can you explain what you mean? Like how that is in your opinion, like why you think that God should be, like, exist for evidence to be? Is that what you're saying? So I'm
Yeah.
kind of confused, like what you mean.
I can take like any fact and show that God's necessary for that fact. So like the fact that we can boil noodles, there's gonna for that fact to be true, other things have to be true. Like there has to be uniformity in nature, which is that the idea that every time you heat water to 100 degrees, it boils, right? So that order, the uniformity of nature, the regularity, the order in the world has to be true for you to be able to boil noodles. So it's like necessary for the fact. And only Christian revelation can like explain that or justify how there is that order, that consistency in the world, the regularity, because there's a sovereign God who created everything and through his divine providence like upholds and like maintains the order in the world. And there's other things too. It's not just that. There's like the fact that objects have identity, that the properties are limited. So you're going to need to have something in your model of reality that limits like the states of existence of anything, like an apple. If an apple isn't limited to the state of existence of an apple, it has no limit, and the apple could like be an orange. So there's all these things that are like necessarily true for us to experience the world and have evidence, and the claims of the Bible is just part of those things. Because we're going to need to know. Yeah.
No, what were you going to say? Sorry, go on.
In order for us to like have evidence, we're going to need to know like who we are, what the world is, and like how our minds and the world are connected. We have to know those things in order to like know the world. If we don't know how our minds can connect to the world or what the world is, then how could we make like knowledge claims about this world? It'd be an unknown world. And like God is necessary to know the world.
Let me ask you this: Do you accept evolution as fact or not?
It's a scientific fact, sure, but I don't believe it's true. But I accept it's a fact.
So so you acknowledge that it's real, but you choose to not accept it as fact. Like you don't believe in it despite it being a fact.
Right, because in the history of science, there's been lots of things that were facts that now we know are not true, right? So just because something's a fact doesn't mean it's true. And I think evolution would contradict what the Bible says. And so because I'm a Christian, I'm going to believe the Bible over like scientific facts.
So do you take like all the stories in the Bible, do you take them like literally, like as in the real? You really believe that everything in there happened word for word? Like Noah's
Some things are
Ark,
literal.
Adam and Eve, yeah.
It's just like anytime when we talk, some things are literal, some things are not literal. Like, because that's just how language is. So it's the same with the Bible. Like there's parts of the Bible that are literal, there's parts of the Bible that are not literal. And then we just use like hermeneutics, Bible scholarship to figure out which is which.
How come you don't think evolution and religion can coincide? I mean, and the Bible, Christianity in particular. Why you don't think they can coincide?
Because in the story in the Bible, God created the world that was like perfect and good, and there was no death and suffering. And it was only when Adam and Eve ate from the tree and we rebelled against God that is when death and suffering entered the world. And that's going to be like important to be true, because Jesus' sacrifice on the cross was to pay the debt for that sin. So if that if death and suffering was in the world before Adam and Eve ate the fruit, which would be the case if evolution is true, then it sort of undermines the whole of Christianity. The whole idea of Christianity is about Jesus sacrificing himself for our sins. And if there's no like original sin, then the sacrifice doesn't mean anything. So evolution just makes Christianity meaningless.
So, based on what you're saying, that means you think that Adam and Eve were actually the first two people.
Yeah, I believe. Yeah,
You really believe that?
God. Yeah.
So, like all the fossil evidence, like to prove that we share a common ancestor with apes, you don't accept all of that evidence that we have to be true, and you still think that Adam and Eve were the first two people to populate the whole earth.
Correct. It's because data requires interpretation. Like those fossils, they don't have a mind and a voice, and they don't like talk to us and go, "Hi, I'm a fossil, and I'm 2 million years old," right? So the fossil requires the scientist to interpret it. Well, they're going to interpret the fossil based on background. The way our background information works is it informs how we evaluate the evidence. So if the one scientist thinks the Earth is like 4 billion years old, he's going to say like interpret, the age of the fossil differently than someone who thinks the Earth is like 6,000 years old. And that's just based on their background information, right?
I
and that's all that's going on.
But like, how does internet work? How does the lights go on? Like, they all rely on like a tried and tested and proved method. So, like, I get what you're saying. Like, where do they draw the conclusions from looking at a bone? But then you realize, well, they make everything else work, and science makes everything else work. So, of course, you got to rely on them knowing like the age of fossils and like where they originate, because all the other sort of science works. So.
Well, no, I'm saying like a fact requires interpretation from a human. And so, because like facts alone don't have any meaning, they require context. And we provide that context by interpreting the facts as humans. And the problem is that there's more than one way to interpret a fact, right? There's multiple.
Yes, but it's the fact still a fact, whether you put.
Yeah, but the fact requires interpretation. The fact would have no meaning without the interpretation. It wouldn't mean anything. So that requires the fact requires the interpretation to give the fact meaning. And then the question is just going to be, who has the correct interpretation of the. And the question is just going to be, who has the correct interpretation of the. And science can't like tell us that, right?
Well, I think it can actually. That's how we sort of do everything.
No, the scientific method just gives us a data point, but the scientific method doesn't tell us like how to interpret that data or if we ought to believe that data. So all it is giving us is data. It doesn't really do anything. I mean, it's not really that useful. It requires the interpretive scheme. So that's like the whole idea is how do we know who has the correct interpretive scheme? Because you need the correct interpretive scheme or else your facts are not going to be correct. And we can say that only the Christians have the correct interpretive scheme, because the other interpretive schemes rely on like the mind of man, and they don't include God in those interpretive schemes. And without God to interpret facts, the facts are just like could be whatever humans interpret them to whatever they want. The only way we could have like objective knowledge is if God interprets all the facts first, and then we interpret the facts after God has already interpreted them. We think God thoughts after him. Through analogical thinking of God's thoughts, then knowledge is possible, and if you deny that, knowledge would be impossible.
Right. Okay. I have another question for you.
That's the
Um,
proof.
sorry, what'd you say?
Sure. Well, that's the proof that the guy was talking about. It's an objective proof. It's about a comparison of
Objective proof?
paradigms.
I don't know about that. I think that's a bit of a stretch to say it's objective proof. I mean, because objective proof,
Yeah.
you know what objective means. I don't think that really falls into that category. But I have another question for you.
Well, it is objective. Is for sure an objective proof. It's called a transcendental proof because my opinion. It's not about my opinion. It's nothing to do with my opinion. It's just about we compare models of reality. I say only the Christian model of reality can make facts intelligible, and I can demonstrate that in like a million different ways.
Okay, well,
Did
that's
you have
your view.
another
And
question?
I'm just gonna respect it because you
It's
seem pretty,
it's a
you seem
proof.
pretty certain. But yeah, no, I don't really agree.
It's not just like my opinion. It's a proof. Like it's a logical proof. It's sound. So, I mean, you don't have to accept the logical proof. I'm not just because I proved something doesn't mean you have to believe it. But like,
Yeah,
it's what it is.
right. I have another question for you. If
Sure.
the Bible is as concrete as you say it is, how come it's not available to everyone in all languages? Like, why wouldn't it have been distributed for everyone to understand if it was really the word of God? Why did God only speak one language, and the language that just so happened to be in the area where these stories came from?
Um, like today the Bible's available to everyone, isn't it?
Well, I don't know if the Bible is written in every language today, but at the time, it was only written in its original language, and you know, like to preserve like the true meanings of text, usually in their native language, it's where it's truly expressed in its best
But
form.
not even because even like if we read something written in English 200 years ago, it's going to be hard for us to understand because language evolves over time and it also requires like context that we wouldn't be aware of. So like a lot of people misinterpret like what the founding fathers wrote down because they're not they're not thinking about the context and how language changes over time when they try to read stuff like that. So even if you that's why we need something called hermeneutics. So we actually have like objective ways to interpret the Bible correctly. That's been like passed down over time. The Bible is one of the most like studied, peer-reviewed books and verified books.
So, if it was really, but that's you're saying about the founding fathers, like compared to written 200 years ago. That's what you said, right? That we wouldn't be able to interpret it as well because
Yeah, even though
it
so
was
it doesn't matter. Even if it's preserved in its native language, that doesn't matter. There's still going to be interpretation issues. Like we can read things written in native English 200 years ago, and we will misinterpret them because language evolves. It's a fluid thing.
But something as important as life or death, really, if the Bible is true, like if everything in the Bible is real, that's a matter of life or death on this planet anyway. Shouldn't it be Like, shouldn't everyone have an equal opportunity to access it and learn it, and it be available to everyone rather than only some
Well,
people? If it was
you
really
don't
important.
you don't need the Bible because the people existed before the Bible, so like God reveals Himself like through creation, like everything in the world reveals God, and also you're made in God's image. So that's the type. So like everyone has like sort of access to God and knows God. I mean, certain people there's like higher degrees where some people like if you have access to the Bible, you're gonna have like more knowledge of God than someone on an island without access to Bible. But no one is without excuse. Like the person without any knowledge of civilization or the Bible still would know God through the fact that he's made in God's image, and that the natural world would reveal God.
So Indigenous Australians, like example, when they were the dominant population in Australia, however many years ago it was, before the Bible, obviously, would they have gone to hell because they didn't believe in God? Like, I'm not sure about this, but what do you think of that?
We don't really know. Like, that's up to God, the grace of God. So grace is like an unmerited reward. So ultimately, like, we don't know what God does, but we just know that God is a perfect judge. He loves us, and we can trust that he's gonna like be fair and judge people correctly. So you don't really have to worry about that.
Okay. All right. Well, I think that's all I wanted to ask you, but I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thanks for
Take
coming up.
care. Bye.
Precept admitted he's never read the Bible. I tell people I've never read the Bible because I don't want to do Bible study with God haters. My God, what's up, Mizbah?
Oh, what's up? I have one question real quick. So, I've been reading the Van Til's apologetic. I think it's like maybe it's like edited or something by Greg Bonson. I don't know, but would you say that's like a good read?
I think that's John Frame's book. Yeah, Darth recommended me. That's on my list. I want to read that book.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I believe that is by John Frame. He's one of Bonson's students. I mean, he's one of Van Til's students, and then Bonson is another one of Van Til's students. And I think Bonson's a better representation of Van Til, but Darth recommended that book you mentioned. He said that John Frame gives a good description of what Van Til's program. So,
Okay.
yeah, I think you should read that. Yeah, that would help you understand the argument.
Okay, and I also read like I think it's called like it's like a 2-page like quick read. It's like the beginning, like an intro to presuppositionalism. I don't know if you've seen that.
I'm not sure what you're talking about.
Okay, yeah, but Darth sent it to me, and he had like a Greg Bonson folder that he told me to read some stuff in it. So I've been but yeah, I really want to get the objective proof. I really want to get that. I haven't got it yet though.
Okay. Well, yeah, it's a good book. All right, should we start adding people up?
Okay.
Welcome, Kira.
Hello.
So, do you accept God as your creator? Yeah, I hear you.
I do not.
Why not?
Because I don't see any convincing proof for it, and the arguments against the given proofs seem more convincing to me.
Have you? Well, see, it's going to be my position that like you can't rationally deny God.
I mean, I would expect that from believers, but I think that's a narrow perspective that doesn't take into consideration that you can't know what other people believe just because you read it in a book somewhere.
Well, but as a Christian, I take the Bible as like my authority, my system. So if something's in the Bible, I'm going to believe that's true, and it's justified by like the fact that God said it.
Okay, but can you see how if somebody were to become convinced that either the Bible is not God's word, that maybe they think God is a different entity, or the Bible is something other than an infallible representation of God's thoughts and will and whatnot, how that would immediately just falsify your claim? Like if one single person has ever had that experience, then it falsifies the claim, just in and of itself.
If one person disagrees with the Bible,
if one person becomes convinced, ends up believing that the Bible is not God's word, then that person does not believe in the God that you believe in. So at least that person does not believe in God as you describe God to be.
We would just say they're like suppressing the truth and unrighteousness, so that they like you deep down inside subconsciously know Christianity is true, but you just like you're in denial or you're like in rebellion against God.
Yeah, so that's actually we know that that's actually not possible. What we know about human psychology, it's not possible to have an underlying belief that you are able to suppress to the point that you don't know you have it, even when taking time to consider it. I mean, I could see how it's definitely possible that you could have people that say they don't believe in God who do. I'm not saying that's not possible. Those people may have a reason for saying they don't because it feels a certain way to them. But when we're talking about people who have carefully considered positions that they've come to, especially by switching from one side to the other, it's impossible to say that they don't actually believe what they believe. There's no mechanism by which that could possibly work from what we know how the human mind works.
Well, I don't know. Smuggling a bunch of stuff there. You're asserting that we know that if people think about something, then they can't suppress the truth or something. Like that's ridiculous. Like people self-deceive themselves all the time. Like addicts are a prime example of this. Like they don't think they have a problem. That's why like one of the first steps in AA is to admit you have a problem, because people deceive themselves in denial like all the time. I don't think you really know what the hell you're talking about.
Yeah, I can actually go a little bit deeper into that because I don't think you quite understood what I meant. It is possible to be deceived, right? So I could at some point, because of some bias that I have internally, I could start to lean towards an internal preference towards a certain perspective that would make me stop believing in a certain thing. But one thing I cannot be wrong about is that I don't believe in that thing. So at some point in my life, I believed in God. And through myriad life experiences and engaging with the philosophical and scientific debates on the topic, over time, it's a long story, doesn't matter, I ended up at the position that I do not believe that any God or gods exist. And that is where I am now. Whether I deceived myself somewhere along the line or not, at this moment, I do not believe.
But you have no reason for that position. It's an irrational position. Don't you get it?
No, I have plenty of reasons. There's.
What's the reason?
I mean, one of my main reasons, the reason I got here is because I learned that the Bible is not an infallible book. And when looked at historically in context and taking all sorts of more academic, even from Christian perspectives, approaches to this, there's no way to maintain any sort of reliable position wherein we hold the Bible up as an infallible guide to anything. It's a useful thing. It can be helpful in certain historic and religious contexts. I'm not saying it's worthless, but it's not enough to use as a basis.
How did you determine the Bible's not infallible?
Simply by studying it and studying history and studying science. All of those things will point out many errors in the Bible. So,
yeah. What scientific experiment proved that the claims of the Bible are not true?
Well, that depends. Which claim of the Bible are we going to explore scientifically? Because the Bible isn't one claim. So, like, you know.
Okay. Seems like you're just BSing me, bro.
No, I'm actually, I'm trying to do, I know that you're a presuppositionalist, so what I'm trying to do is get to the core of your belief and point out to you that it's not as true as you think it is, and the only way for you to maintain your position is by closing your, on experience and on scientific knowledge.
How do you do science without God? Science can't even prove science is true.
That's not what we're doing, though. Saying you can't climb a house with a jump rope doesn't mean that a jump rope can't jump rope, like, or that you can't climb on the roof with something. You're using the wrong tool to try to justify the men's. Like, you're setting up the standard that only God can justify science, and then you're judging science based on the fact that it doesn't use God. That's what presuppositional means. That's exactly what that means. You're presupposing it with no justification.
Stop. You're lying to me and you're lying to the audience, and you're doing this because you hate God, you hate the truth, your position's completely emotional, and this has been revealed by your refusal to defend your position. You haven't presented any evidence that your position is rational. You're being totally emotional, dude.
I'm actually not being the least bit emotional. I'm actually approaching this from a very I'm trying to get you. I'm trying to get you to give me a specific thing. Give me a specific area to address, because I could go on for hours if it's just a matter of talking into the void. Like, there's no direction here. The big thing for me.
Disagree.
The big thing for me was understanding that everything I had been taught about the known history of the universe is factually wrong, given the position that I was taught in my religious upbringing. There are no facts that support the biblical creation story, and nearly unlimited facts that disprove it.
Okay, so I think God is necessary for facts. How do you have facts without God? What would make facts intelligible? What would be your single unifying principle with causal powers to make facts intelligible? Because that's where we disagree. I'm going to say it's God. Yeah. What do you say it is?
What I say it is that you are actually forcing a false dichotomy where God either supplies the basis of reasonability or there is none. And I say the principle, or there's a word I'm looking for, I can't find it right now. The sensibility of the universe comes from its structure, and there's nothing that needs to explain the structure. It is what it is, just like you would say God is what God is. He doesn't need any explanation for being what he is. Similarly,
that, ladies and gentlemen?
The universe is just the way that it is.
This is what atheism does to your brain. You hear this, ladies and gentlemen?
The universe, which is the way that it is,
pure
and
emotions.
There's no need to explain it beyond that, and then you're adding that extra step just because you want to. What emotion have I distributed here? What emotion?
This is what atheism does to your brain. Well, I'm asking you for a rationale for your position. You're refusing. You just gave me a bunch of emotions.
I just gave you the rationale.
Also, you're denying that
unnecessary.
Stop. I'm talking now. You're denying that. I'm talking now. You're denying that. You're saying, like, oh, you're creating these like unfair criteria, and like I'm not just gonna like allow myself to be subjected to your Christian criteria. I'm absolutely not doing that. You have no idea what you're talking about. You're a low information person. Bertrand Russell, who is a atheist, foaming at the mouth, crazed God hater. Bertrand Russell, famous philosopher, he said that science is impossible if we don't solve the problem of induction. You can't solve, and he also says, cannot solve the problem of induction. But that's only because he's an atheist. Christian revelation solves the problem of induction. Therefore, science is only possible if Christian revelation is true. So you're screwed. Do you realize that?
No, what I realize is you're actually just planting things down that aren't true and standing on them as unquestionable facts and not allowing me a chance to provide a reasonable rebuttal. That's what I understand so far.
I disagree with Bertrand Russell.
If that's what he truly said, then yes, I disagree with him. All you need for induction is a consistent universe. That's it. There's a consistent universe that at its base doesn't change. So the past, present, and future all operate under the same parameters. Nothing has changed fundamentally. If we can figure out what those fundamental immutable properties of the universe are, then we have every justification that we need under which to conclude a self-existing universe that doesn't
Sir,
require
I'm looking
any
to
sort
talk to rational people. You're just being emotional.
What emotion have I used? I'm exasperated now because you just keep throwing emotions to me, and I haven't done any.
Sir, you're being emotional. You're not even listening to what I'm presenting to you. I just presented an argument. Sir, you're not listening. Bertrand Russell, you cannot disagree with Bertrand Russell. He's on your side. He's an atheist. He's a philosopher.
That doesn't mean he knows everything. That's not how things work.
He knows more about you on this matter, right? And he says we can't solve the problem of induction. And if that's the case, then science is impossible. Okay?
Yeah.
And you have no response to this, do you? You have nothing but emotional talk to respond to this. You said emotional talk.
Do you know what emotional means? Do you know what emotional means? Because you don't seem to know what emotional means. I literally responded with an intellectual response.
I'm going to disagree with the atheist expert because of my emotions.
How is that an emotion?
That's what you said.
I didn't say a goddamn thing about emotions. I didn't say one thing about emotions. I said
solve the problem.
I literally just said I don't believe that it is a problem. I think it's a BS problem made up by Christian Western philosophers over the ages. And I think
is Bertrand Russell a Christian?
He was subject to the earlier ideas of Western Christian philosophy. A lot of philosophy, a lot of time and expertise in philosophy has been wasted.
Kira, I'm looking to talk to rational people. I'm just getting emotional.
Well, you don't know what emotions or rationality are, so that's fine. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, I'm going to move on. Thanks for coming. I wish you well.
Your mom.
Unbelievable.
Hello.
Welcome.
Can
you believe that guy?
I know, insanity right there.
These atheists think they can solve the problem of induction. I already say it's not a problem. Like, how is it not a problem? It literally makes science impossible if you can't solve it.
Well, if we also can move on from that, then we can have a conversation.
I don't think if atheism were true, I don't think we'd be able to have a conversation. I don't think we'd be able to speak to each other. That's how like nonsense atheism is.
What do you mean?
When we talk about the world, we speak about the world, we use unifying descriptions of reality.
Right.
But if atheism were true, those unifying descriptions of reality wouldn't be real. There'd be no reference.
Well, we would.
So like that means if atheism were true, all of our words, they wouldn't have any meaning. There wouldn't be any truth to anything we're saying.
That's kind of a stretch, I think.
It's not a stretch. It's absolutely not a stretch. I can prove it.
Okay.
Right. So we talk about the world in terms of like we use classes and categories to describe the world.
Right.
And a class or a category is like this thing that has limitations to its properties in such a way that it has a certain defined fixed set of properties. Well, if there's no intention in the world, there'd be no inherent or like fixed properties because intentionality is going to be required for that.
Why does atheism leave no intention?
Atheism is the denial of the creator-creature distinction and the denial of ultimate intention, ultimate design, and that there's just going to be like things are random. Things have properties for no reason. Like it's just random.
Well, not exactly. That's kind of a stretch. It's more the idea that it doesn't have a spiritual intention, right? We can still have humanistic intentions with things, right? I can still talk and have the intention of communicating with you.
That's the problem. Okay, so it's like the one way to think about this is if like an author writes a book. An author could write a book with a specific meaning, right. and then there's like inherent meaning in the book. If the author also could write a story that's like open to interpretation. There's no inherent meaning. So in that case, we could disagree about what the book means, but there's no fixed meaning, right? So we'd both be correct because it's open to interpretation. That's how the world would be without intention. The world would just be open to interpretation. And so we could disagree about what like a fact is, what a fact means, and we'd both be correct. There'd be no fixed meaning in the world to determine like one of us is correct or not. That would require like an intention or like an author behind a story.
Well, we
like,
can have
put the
forms
meaning.
still of fixed meaning in terms like obviously I can go outside and be like, oh yes, the sky is blue in terms of how we perceive it, right? But that just opens up it's more of an open-ended mindset though. Like if I say something in terms of religion, right? Like in terms of me as an agnostic, I don't think there's any way that you can pin down a specific God for the existence of it, right? Even if you could prove a God, you cannot pin it down to a specific religion without like bias, right? And I wanted to talk about that because of the open-endedness of that like topic. But if you're only raised within a certain religion, then you will only talk about that religion, and I think that's kind of irrational. Typically.
Well, yeah, but I can objectively prove like my position is true, so like my position's rational.
That's what everyone from every religion says ever. So you would have to give me a specific claim.
Yeah, I make a transcendental argument for God where I'm going to say that like God's necessary for facts.
Okay, but which God?
The Christian God.
And why the Christian God?
Because the Bible, the claims of the Bible constitute a model of reality or like a paradigm or a way to look at the world. And I guess a better way it's like an interpretive scheme of reality. And only the Christian interpretive scheme can interpret facts correctly. The other interpretive schemes have to like guess as to like what is ultimate reality. Their metaphysics are pure speculation, while Christian metaphysics have a solid foundation in God's revelation.
Okay.
So denying Christian revelation is like denying metaphysics, which is like denying reality, pretty much.
That last part is a stretch because, like, okay, my general problem is that like you make a transcendental argument or logic. I don't want to miss.
Yeah, transcendental. It's a transcendental proof, transcendental argument. Yeah.
Right, which is still based in like metaphysics. But just because you deny the metaphysics doesn't mean you deny like you will deny the perceived reality within that metaphysical nature, but you're not denying reality as is. Because a Muslim or say a Mormon can completely say, oh well, the general Christian view of mainstream Christianity is just irrational metaphysics and make the exact same argument that you're making.
They can't because the Christian God has specific attributes that are unique. The properties of the Christian model are unique to it. And so we would I could show that how like Islam destroys the possibility of truth, right? And therefore it's like a self-defeating position, or Judaism or whatever religion, whatever model of reality you want to throw at me, I can just illustrate how that model of reality can't account for the possibility of knowledge and the fact that we can learn from experience.
Okay, well, display how Islam or Judaism is a lot more interesting, I think so. So I would like for you to display why Judaism is irrational in comparison to the Christian moral framework.
Well, the Jewish God wouldn't be perfect. It would lack the ability to substantiate love without creation because it's Unitarian. They don't have the doctrine of the Trinity. Right. So like the Christian God can express love before creation, where the Jewish God's going to be dependent on creation. And also the doctrine of the Trinity is going to be necessary to explain a problem in metaphysics of the one and the many, where like a Unitarian God couldn't explain the problem of the one and the many. So we just like make an argument like that against Judaism.
Okay, but don't you view, so you don't view the Jewish God as the same as like the Christian God because it's like incomplete?
Um, well, they don't have the revelation of Jesus, right? So we like Christians interpret the Old Testament differently than Jews do because we have the revelation of Christ.
Right. But like,
So
oh wait, continue. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
we believe in like progressive revelation, like God reveals more and more of himself throughout time, culminating in like Christ, basically. So
Right, but what makes Jesus specifically the answer to that? That's what I don't understand. Like when we say God exists, right, and we pinpoint to a specific religion, why is it Jesus' salvation and his sacrifices that make him like the one that stand out to you? That's what I don't understand at all.
well, you mean aside? I mean, I just gave a proof that Christianity is true. So, like, aside from that, you mean, or something?
Well, I mean, because we have people who die for their religious beliefs like all the time, but we don't like we don't put them on a pedestal, right? So what
Well,
makes
yeah, but
Jesus' sacrifices
Jesus,
like the special one, I guess?
because he claimed he was the Son of God, and then he died and resurrected,
Do we have
and
proof of
so
that? Well, we have proof of him probably claiming that, but do we have proof of him resurrecting? And how do we know that
yeah,
the resurrection was true based on like stories from 2,000 years ago?
just witness. How we know anything about history is like witness testimony, right? So there's like a bunch of witnesses
Right,
to
but
the
I mean,
resurrection.
there are certain historical things we can know. Like we can have, like I know that we know that witnesses claimed that, right? I'm not denying that there were quote unquote witnesses, but the validity of said witnesses is what is in question, right? Because we have witnesses of
No, no,
Muhammad
no,
going
no, no, no,
to
no.
what?
What's in question is we disagree on possibilities and impossibilities, right? That's what's in question.
Somewhat, yeah, in terms of what we're
Because
presupposing.
like for you to accept like some historical claims and then not others, you're doing that based on like bias, right? And your background information. So that's why we got to do the transcendental argument
No, 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 no,
because
no, no, no.
yeah,
We got to roll it back some because the initial bias that we have is us presupposing that God even exists in the first place. That's the original bias here. That's the original
everyone
intention.
has a bias. Everyone has a bias. So we have to
Right.
examine our biases and see whose biases are correct. And when we examine your biases, they're like totally false. They don't make sense.
Why is my bias towards something 2,000 years ago based on something supernatural like false? And why is your bias in terms of something supernatural
Because
existing? Not even just something supernatural existing, but something that is specifically supernatural that contradicts with other people's supernatural like metaphysical intentions. Why is that one true? All I'm
because
doing is
so
generally questioning the supernatural intentions of things, but you
exactly.
pin it down. You pin it down to not only a supernatural thing, but a specific supernatural thing.
Like I said, I think the supernatural's possible. You think the supernatural's impossible. So, like I said in the beginning, we disagree over what's possible and impossible, right?
Right.
But when you deny the supernatural, that criteria is going to come back on you and destroy your own position because there's lots of things that are supernatural that you believe in,
Like
like math.
math isn't supernatural.
Math is supernatural. 7 coconuts. Where's the 7 in the natural world?
What makes wait, hold on, hold on. Math is math is part of the laws of the universe. It's not supernatural though. Like nobody
It's
like
supernatural. Math. The number 7 doesn't exist in the natural world.
that doesn't make it supernatural.
It's yeah. That would definitionally would make it supernatural because if
No.
something doesn't exist in the natural world, then it would be supernatural.
Just because I imagine something doesn't make it supernatural.
I might have to move on, man. This is pretty
No, you're
bad.
just no, because now you're deflecting. Just because I can say the number 7 doesn't make it supernatural. Like the
No,
criteria of numbers
it's
of
not
anything that exists
natural.
doesn't make it supernatural, right? Like nobody
When you
decided two
say
plus
God
two.
doesn't exist, words don't exist. Words are supernatural.
No, you keep
The words you're
extrapolating my
speaking
point,
to,
bro. When I two
the
plus
words
two,
that you're
nobody
saying are
decided that 2 plus 2
supernatural.
equals 4, right? 2 plus 2
An
just is
argument,
4, right?
an argument is supernatural.
No, see now that's where we have to
Yes.
backtrack really hard. Our arguments are us just
Where are
communicating to each other.
arguments in the natural world? Yeah, they don't exist in the natural world. Now you can't make arguments because you don't believe in God. Do you see how ridiculous you are?
Well, you're arguing with somebody
Yes.
who can't make arguments, apparently. But
Well, now
yeah,
you're
so
just like confusing. I'll believe in these supernatural things because they're useful to me, and then I'm not going to believe in these supernatural things because I don't like them
you're
and I
trying to
hate
compare
Jesus.
math to God in terms of how supernatural they are. I'm
Yeah,
saying
sure.
that
Math has
just because
math has
again, the numbers that exist in this world that we can use to calculate are not supernatural just because they exist in our minds. That's what I'm trying to
they're
say.
absolutely supernatural.
No,
Math has numbers have properties that we associate with the divine, like they're eternal,
that we
they're
associate with divine, that
unchanging,
some people
and they're
associate with
universal.
divine. Not everybody does.
No,
That's the problem.
the properties of a math are the same as the properties associated in classical theism with what we call divine. They're divine
That
properties. They're
some people
eternal.
call it divine.
They're unchanging. Okay, you're being emotional. Kind of looking to talk to rational people.
No, we're having a
So
rational conversation. You're just deflecting, actually.
not really, because you're trying to say like, well, I have the system to interpret facts where I deny anything supernatural, and
I'm
then
not
that would
denying any
mean that
supernatural. We disagree on what supernatural even means.
would mean you couldn't make an argument because arguments are supernatural. So your position's redundant.
Yes, so I cannot
We're
speak
gonna
right
move
now
on
because I
to
don't believe in the supernatural.
you're
That's
using
what you're
words
saying.
that the words that you're using they don't exist in the natural world.
And we're
So
still
you
having
don't
a
believe
conversation, right? So what changes our conversation right now?
you deny the supernatural. You're denying the words that you're saying have meaning.
No, because if I was genuinely convinced of that, then I wouldn't even be up here having a conversation with you in the first place. I still have
No, you're
intentions
just
behind my
living.
words and not in terms of
You're
how I
just
want to
living in
communicate to you.
denial. You're living in denial. You want to deny the supernatural, but then you want to use supernatural things like math and language.
Again,
And
math
you're
is
just
not
living in
supernatural.
denial. Okay, well, thanks for coming. I wish
You're
you well.
misdefining. You need to look up what supernatural means genuinely. Like that's not me.
This is what they do. This is what they do.
Good afternoon. God bless.
God bless, man. Did you have a comment? I guess you're Christian.
Yes, I'm a Christian. It's kind of hard to explain things in the comment section because of the limited the text. But
Okay, well, if you want to we're looking for non-believers, but you can make a quick comment if you want.
yeah, I'll make it as quick as possible. It's like they're equating God to being the evil that he is because he's running the show per his rules, and it's kind of hard to explain to somebody outside of the realm of understanding of being a Christian that it's his show. As limited as that sounds, it's his show, it's his creation, it's his rules. And yet he chooses, and then I think they feel, it's almost as if they're trying to force logic into something that's far beyond logic. It is in fact a supernatural. We can't explain certain things. They want everything to fit in this neat little box. And God's not in the box, he is the box, you know? But yeah, I'll open it back up, let other people jump in because we're basically going to echo chamber each other. I haven't heard you say anything I disagree with.
All right, right on, man. Thanks for coming up.
Yeah, same,
God
man.
bless.
You too.
Yeah, I try to keep it off. Like, I don't really want to disagree with Christians or get into like theology debates. I just mainly want to like expose that atheism is irrational. That's just here to say that atheism not a strong position. Not a strong position. See, I'm not sure if this guy's been up before.
Yo,
Welcome.
all right. I don't. I just want to know your best argument for like the existence.
Well, I have a logical argument that I think is very solid inference. But it seems like atheists don't really like logic. Would you like maybe an emotional argument?
No, we can do logic. That works.
Yeah. Well, so I'm going to say basically that like God's necessary for facts. There's a necessary relationship to make interpret facts correctly. That you're going to need Christian revelation to interpret facts correctly, and if you deny that, you'll basically be reduced to absurdity where you couldn't make sense of facts.
Okay. So where do you conclude that facts need to be, what is the word? Justified through a God.
Because facts require interpretation, and interpretation is what gives the fact meaning. And so we need an interpretive scheme to give the fact meaning. And then the question is going to be like, who has the correct interpretive scheme? And only Christians are going to have access to the correct interpretive scheme, because our interpretive scheme comes from an absolute personal creator God, ultimate reality. It reveals itself to us so that we can know the reality. If you deny God, it's like you basically make it impossible to know reality.
Okay, so what if I just prescribe this to just a monotheistic God without the Christian attributes, like an all-powerful being that's personal, and I say that God told me this, right? So would that work for now?
No, because like I have something tangible I can point to, where it's not like I'm just guessing or speculating. There's like a history of the church of God interacting with people, and there's like a Bible, and then there's also like metaphysical realities that point to like Christianity. So
Right, but for the argument's sake, just for the argument, I think it's a flaw. But that'd be like evident that that is the true God. But for the argument, you're saying that there just must be a personal God, right, to justify a fact. So why,
right.
it really could be any personal God, right? But you're saying that it's evident that you have the correct personal God.
Like if you just, because you need like more justification than just like like you can't just go like, oh, the flying spaghetti monster can do the same things as the Christian God or something like that, because you're just like making that up, right? It's ad hoc.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so what's a fact? Like what do you mean by facts?
Like an objective truth about the world.
Okay, like what?
Like the fact that water boils at 100 degrees Celsius or something like that.
Okay, so why would we need to interpret that? What's the interpretation to that?
Well, like a better example would be like a fossil. I use the example of a fossil. Like a fossil can't tell us how old the fossil is. The fossil relies on like the scientists to interpret the fossil and give it meaning. So background information will tell us how old the fossil is. Like if the person thinks the Earth is billions of years old and they believe in like carbon dating, they're gonna like say that the fossil's 2 million years old. And if the person like doesn't believe in those things, is like a young Earth creationist, they're gonna say the fossil's like 5,000 years old. So since the fossil doesn't interpret itself, it requires an interpretive scheme. And then the question is gonna be like, who has the correct interpretive scheme? And then what we do, that's what the goal of a transcendental argument is to determine, or the transcendental argument for God specifically, is to determine who has the correct interpretive scheme to interpret the facts. Because if you have a wrong interpretive scheme, you can't interpret the facts correctly.
What do you mean by fact, though? Are you saying something that is like definitively true?
Like a data point in the world. Like a fossil is a fact, right? There's this thing that exists in the world, and it's a fossil. And then we go, well, what does it mean? And then If you know, depending on how old you think the Earth is and your background information, that's going to affect how you evaluate and interpret the meaning of what the data says, right? But then it's like, this is called the problem of underdetermination of data. Who has the correct way to interpret data?
Well,
So we're just asking.
I think we should go off evidence now, like science. I think science has good evidence for data being true.
Yeah, but I'm saying that God is necessary for evidence at all, and denying God is like denying evidence.
Okay, why? Why is God necessary for evidence?
Because like any fact, like going back to the boiling water, for that to be the case, for you to be able to boil water at 100 degrees every time, there has to be like an order and consistency in the world, a regularity in the world. And only Christian revelation can explain like why there would be order in the world. If there's no God, there's no reason to think that things will get consistent results in experiments, that like every time you drop a pen, it falls to the earth because of gravity. Well, if there's no God, there's nothing to like secure that fact of being true. So like for all we would know, when we drop the pen, it could like fly up into the air or just float there or something. There's no reason to think that the future will resemble the past without God's revelation.
Well, I think that like gravity would be like evident that it's not just gonna fly away. But like I see what you're saying, but like wouldn't just the thing just be the evident of it? Like gravity would just its existence would imply that it wouldn't like do anything but gravity, right? It wouldn't fly away because gravity exists.
They've been trying to solve this problem, and it's impossible to solve without God. So there's all these like problems that are like skeptical of problems that are impossible to solve without God. And if you can't solve them, then it makes like knowledge impossible and learning from our experience impossible.
Yeah, but you're saying that like things can't be consistent, like in the sense of gravity, but like gravity existing would be the consistency, right? Its existence means that everything that follows gravity would just consistently follow it. So therefore, it wouldn't need to fall off.
But gravity is just another type of consistency. So
right.
Like,
yeah, but it's existing.
Yeah, but you'd have to explain like, so gravity, like why doesn't it get stronger and weaker randomly? It's like consistently the same strength, right?
Okay, yeah, okay. And then you're saying this is evident that a God exists. Why?
Because God would impose on the properties set of gravity to make it behave that way, so that consistently, because of the providence of God, it's always going to have the same strength.
Okay, what if that's just the property of gravity, that it's just consistent?
Well, then there's no reason to think that, right? That's just like being irrational. That's just like believing in something with no evidence, right? That's like blind. That's the same as having like blind faith that something's true.
Well, yeah, that's kind of what I'm saying. I'm saying like we have the absence of knowledge of this, but I think yours is like you're presupposing that it's just a God because we don't know. But I don't see the connection on like you have an explanation on why it could be a God, but I don't see like I see it almost as like a claim, like God is the cause of the consistency, but I don't see reason why to believe it. That's the real truth, you know?
Yeah, well, if you don't have an answer for that question, then Bertrand Russell, who's an atheist, he says that science is impossible. So only Christian revelation, only that science is only possible in that world. And in the non-God world, science would be impossible. You couldn't do science. So that the fact that we can do science is evidence that Christian revelation is true. It's inescapable. There's no way out of that.
I don't know what you mean.
If atheism were true, science would be impossible. Science is not impossible. We do science. Therefore, Christianity has to be true because only Christianity describes the world that makes science possible in the first place. So the fact that we can do science is the evidence that Christianity is true, because if atheism was true, we could not do science.
Okay, why not?
because there would be that order I was talking about, right?
Mhm.
That's required to do an experiment to get a repeatable result.
Yeah, no, I agree. But there's things that like we don't know why they work the way they do. But I
Sure.
don't. Yeah.
But if you don't know why, then science is impossible. So you can take that position, but that's a self-defeating position unless you want to say we live in a world where science is impossible. I don't think you want to say that, because that's also self-defeating. So there's no, due to the impossibility of the contrary, because you can't rationally deny what I'm saying, Christianity is true.
Okay. Do you think Christianity can ever be false? Like a possibility?
No,
Okay. So why do you debate people?
because I think Christianity is objectively provable.
Okay, but like, so you would never debate somebody to change your opinion, right? You're stuck on your opinion, like, until you die, correct?
Yeah, if I want to change my opinion, I'm gonna like read, right?
But you would never, like, logically, you would never change your opinion if it's proven, correct?
Well, like I talk about things I know about, right? Like, so I look at both sides of the issues. Like, so I've already studied all the arguments, the counter arguments to my argument, and I know how to deal with everything, right?
Mhm.
I've looked at the evidence for atheism, and then I looked at the evidence for Christianity, and the evidence for Christianity wins hard.
Right. So that'd be like evidence that the Christianity is true. But like, I just want to know, like, do you think like it's definitively true where it can't be wrong? Like, there's no possibility of it being wrong.
Yes.
Okay. So that means you would never change your opinion then, correct?
I mean, if someone could theoretically, if like hypothetically someone defeated my argument, then I would change my opinion. But no one's been able to defeat my argument, because you'd have to tell me what all reality is.
But that would just be impossible, right? Because you can't like unprove something, right?
Unprove something.
Yeah, like if something is definitively true or proven, and then you're saying in a hypothetical someone disproves you, well, the hypothetical would be impossible. It's like saying we disprove 2 + 2 = 4.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you can disprove Christianity, but hypothetically, if someone were able to, then I would change my mind. Yeah.
Wait, do you think in a hypothetical 2 + 2 can equal 5?
In a hypothetical sense, I suppose. I don't know.
Okay, but
I mean,
like
I think
possible hypothetical.
Isn't like 2 + 2 = 4? That's like necessary. I don't know. I haven't really thought about that.
That's kind of my point. Like, because it's like, I don't know what you mean by proven, but if you're like implying that it's like true, that's kind of what I'm trying to get at, like a necessary fact. So if you're saying you know the truth or you know a necessary fact like 2 + 2 = 4, but for Christianity, then you could never be wrong, right? You would never be wrong.
Yeah, that's what I'm telling you. I don't think I can be wrong. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like that's kind of absurd, bro. Because I feel like, how do you learn in life? Like, what if you just are wrong? You know what I mean? Like, I know you're saying that it's evident that you're not wrong because you've done a lot of studying, but like, I feel like if you just live by the way you live right now, I think that's kind of absurd.
It's absurd to believe I'm correct. Like, I'm not sure what's your point.
Well, it's a closed mind, right? Like, it's the definition of a closed mind. You're saying that you're closing off other options because of the fact that you're right.
Well, do you think you're open-minded?
I do, because I don't think I have the objective truth about anything.
But you just contradicted yourself, because if you think you're open-minded, then you're not actually open to the possibility you might be closed-minded.
Wait, what? Say it again?
If you think you're open-minded, then you're not open-minded to being closed-minded. So you could be closed-minded, but you believe falsely that you're open-minded, and you'll never even consider the fact that you're closed-minded because you just determined that you're open-minded. So you're really not open-minded. You just contradicted yourself. So you're not like thinking about things clearly. And this is what atheism does to you. You need Christianity. The rejection of God will like dull your cognitive abilities.
Okay, wait. You're saying if I'm open-minded, then I can't be closed-minded, right? And therefore, like, I'm not open-minded because I can't.
You can't. It's if you think you're open-minded, it's a contradiction. Yeah, it's a contradiction, right? Because you're not open to being closed-minded.
But I don't think it's like an actual. I think it's just like a standard. Like I just have an open mind about things, but like I'm not open-minded about everything. You know what I mean? Like things that would like a contradiction. I wouldn't be open.
If you actually, you would have accepted. I gave you a logical proof, and you rejected it based on like your emotions. You're not this like,
bro. So I don't think that's proof. What
person
like?
without-
Say,
It is proof. It doesn't matter what you
bro.
think.
Proof.
It's an
Okay.
objective
Define proof. Yeah, define proof. I don't know what you mean by proof.
There's a good reason to think something's true.
Yeah. So can proof ever be wrong?
Sure.
Well, okay, then we disagree, right? So, I mean, I think proof is something that is definitively true, right? In philosophy, right? Not like science.
Well, like a proof could be incorrect, right? It could be like unsound or invalid.
Right, like in science. But like if we're talking in the sense of like God, we're talking about philosophy, right? So I think we should use how philosophy uses it. But if you're saying that you have like such good evidence on God existing, I agree. I think that you can consider that proof. But I don't know. I don't think it's sound.
Yeah, but I mean, what would be your single unifying principle that has causal powers to be able to explain anything? Because that's necessary to have facts and to explain things and to make arguments. You need a single unifying principle with causal powers. That's necessary. But you're going to say, I don't know what it is? Well,
No. Well, why can't the laws of logic just be independently like infinite? Like, why does there need to be a cause to logic?
Because if nothing causes the laws of logic to be true, then they're not true.
Why not?
Because nothing causes them to be true in like a metaphysics. They're not actual, right? They're just a fantasy then.
Okay, but what if they're like they apply to everything that exists, right? So like I feel like, but
that doesn't mean they're true.
But bro, you're presupposing that something has to cause them for them to be true. What if they are just I forget the word. Like, what if their existence makes them true?
Something has to cause them to be true by limiting their attributes. The laws of logic are an abstraction. They're an immaterial entity. They have certain limitations and features. If they didn't have limits, then they wouldn't be laws. So then you have to explain what is limiting these things in like a metaphysical sense.
Yeah, their properties.
No, that's what I'm asking. If there's no limit to their properties, then they have unlimited properties.
No. Their properties are like limiting. Like they can't do anything. Like that's the property. It's self-limiting.
It doesn't work.
Why not?
Because then you're saying that like they're all absolute and self-contained, non-derived, independent. Yeah. Then you have like multiple ultimate authorities, and it's just nonsense. It doesn't work.
Well, I mean, I can say like you're just saying it's nonsense. I want like a reason, right? I don't think that's good.
Because the laws of logic, they have limitations, and to say they're absolute unto themselves would mean they don't have limitations.
No, I didn't say that. I said the limitations are like an attribute of it, or like the limitations have attributes that are like limited.
The absolute is not limited. That limits all other things. That's like God. The laws of logic are not absolute. They have limitations. They're not unlimited.
Yeah, bro. I'm saying the limitations of like, let's just say a contradiction, right? I'm saying like that would be an attribute, like it being limited to only like non-contradiction.
Yeah. So then, what's the thing that limits anything? It's the ultimate reality.
You have to tell me why. Wait, no.
You don't know what it is. Just admit it.
I agree with you, but you have to tell me
why.
Right.
So then that's the problem. Now you don't know. You have no reason to think there's a limit to anything. If there's no reason to think there's a limit to anything, then anything is possible. If anything is possible, then we couldn't argue or prove anything.
No, I'm not saying that. I think you're
Yes, it
presupposing
is
that
what you're saying.
no, wait, hold on. I think you're presupposing that there's like a limiter, like someone to limit it. But I don't see like the reason why.
If there's no limit, dude, if there's no limit to the Apple states of existence, then
Wait,
the Apple
that's not
state
what
of
I'm saying,
existence
bro.
has no limit.
I believe that there's limits, but you're saying that
Then
someone's.
what's the reason for the limit?
I'm trying to explain it, bro. Yeah, I believe that there's limits, but you're prescribing like a limiter, and I don't understand your reasoning why to prescribe a limiter. Why can't it just have limits? Like, what's the argument for that?
Well, because we need reasons, right? And you're saying, oh, it just is, right? So that's blind faith.
What you don't think things can just like be? I think that's absurd.
Well, you can say that. Well, then you're living a fantasy.
Okay, so
You
how?
wanna
Okay,
live-
so
you
how
want your
is
reality to
God?
be a fantasy? Is that what you want?
Yeah, bro. So how is
I
God?
want to
Just,
live in the real. Look, I want to live in the real world. So I believe in Christianity.
okay, but
You
hold
want to live
on.
in a fantasy
Explain to me.
and deny Christianity.
Wait. Can you explain to me then, like God, right? How is God being then, right? Like how is He independent?
God is ultimate reality, and unless ultimate reality reveals itself, you wouldn't know reality. So when you talk about reality, you're talking about fantasy.
I know. Hold on, bro. I'm saying like you're saying that something can't just be, right? It must like have like a cause to its attributes in this sense. So like in the sense of God, God just is, right? Like that's how they like.
Dude,
would
we're
describe it.
debating. We're giving in a debate. You give reasons for your positions, right? If you ask me what limits the Apple states of existence, I will say it's the Christian God. When
Okay,
I
but
ask you
what limits
what
God?
limits the Apple states of existence, you're going to say, I don't know. It just has a limit. That's not a fucking reason. So you're
Wait,
not
but
debating.
you use that same argument for God. You're saying God just is. That's what I'm trying to explain to you, bro.
I'm
Why-
not.
Wait.
I'm
Is
not doing
God
that.
is God independent or no?
Independent. God just, I'm giving an argument as God is a necessary foundation. So
Yeah,
there's
not
that's a reason to think God's true. It's not, I'm not just saying God just is.
Okay, perfect. That's my same argument for logic. I think logic is necessary.
Yeah, but what is ultimate reality? That's the question.
What do you mean?
What in your system dictates possibilities and impossibilities and also necessities?
Yeah, logic.
Thanks for coming. You don't want to be logical, right? You just want to be emotional and do this shit.
What, bro?
It's not an answer to my question.
What's your question?
Being
Say it.
emotional.
What's your question?
What dictates what is, what can and cannot be in the actual world? I say it's God. What do you say it is?
I
You
say
should
what is-
say, I don't know.
I think logic, bro. I think
You're lying. Anything
Wait.
other than I don't know is bullshit. Do
bro,
you think
I
I
think you're
haven't
using
researched?
feelings,
Do you think?
bro.
Do I sound like I don't know what I'm talking about?
It
I've
sounds like you're
researched
using
this.
feelings, bro. You're talking about my feelings.
No, dude, you're bullshitting me. You're the
You're
one that's
using
being
it.
emotional.
Okay, I'm emotional. I forgot, bro.
Yes, you're lying to me. You're deceiving me and you're deceiving the audience. You're a liar.
Okay.
If I ask you what is ultimate reality, you should say, I don't know. You don't know, do you? Because your answer
That wasn't the
betrays
question.
your
You literally
ignorance.
You said what dictates what is true and false, and I said
Logic doesn't
logic.
dictate what's true or false. Logic is an abstraction. It doesn't cause anything to be the case. So that's not an answer to the question. You know, do you want to admit you don't know what the fuck you're talking about?
Yeah, I'm just
Or do you
too
want to
emotional.
lie?
I guess I'm too emotional for you, bro. Oh my god.
Yeah. Do you want to admit that you just lied and you don't know what the fuck you're
Yeah,
talking about?
Yeah, I'm too emotional. I can't do this, bro.
Well, exactly.
Yeah, bro. But I don't.
Yeah, come back when you calm down.
Wait, isn't our stance that we have to have God for logic?
Yes. God is necessary for logic, correct.
Okay, so yeah, that guy, he took a completely irrational stance there.
I asked him what ultimate reality is. He didn't know how to answer. So instead of being honest and saying, I don't know, he answer. So instead of being honest and saying, I don't know, he decided to lie. And when I called a liar, You're like, what? So you test how they don't say I don't know. When they say I don't know, it's going to entail to that. And atheists seem to be that's something like just built is built up on bias. It's just
Oh shit, I think you're lagging a bit, Precept.
it's like I might be I moved kind of
The argument.
great.
So what you were
I
saying?
love that argument.
You were saying you're basically like saying like the basis of all logic is like the God.
Yes. That's right.
Well, I actually disagree. I think it's Blinky the Clown. Blinky Magic Clown. Instead of presupposing the Christian God, I'd rather presuppose Blinky the Magic Clown.
Okay. Well, in contradistinction to your
It's the same
position,
thing.
I'm not just like
We're both just presupposing. You know what I mean? Like you're
same.
presupposing the Christian God, and I'm presupposing Blinky the Magic Clown.
Sure, you can presuppose anything you want, but then the question is going to be like, do you have a metaphysical justification or tether for that presupposition? And like, I do,
Do you?
right?
What is it?
Yeah.
What is it?
So there's some. I'm not just like making up the Bible, right? Like, there's
The Bible?
something
You're gonna say
tangible.
the Bible?
Yeah. So I'm not. It's not like my position isn't based on a hypothesis, a guess, or like a possibility, but it's based on revelation from God through the Bible and nature, thousands of years of history of the church, and
How do
concrete
you know that's real though?
physical truths. Because of the transcendental
How do you know
argument
that's
for
real
God.
though?
Because of the transcendental argument for
Because
God.
what?
The transcendental argument for God.
No, but what? It's for Blinky though. It's for Blinky the Magic Clown, not for God. So how do you know that your Bible is like true? How do you know it's true?
Because of revelation from God.
Well, I know from Revelations from Blinky of the Magic Clown.
No, you don't have revelation. Only like Christians.
How are you gonna tell me? I do. I have
because it
Revelations
just-
for Blinky the Magic Clown.
Revelation isn't something that we just like make up in our minds. So that's what
Blinky
you're
the Magic
confused.
Clown personally told me and let me know.
No. Revelation is a tangible thing. It's not just a made up thing. So there's no reason to like entertain your imagination or your fantasy.
The thing is, I know that mine's true because Blinky the Magic Clown personally showed me, and he still continues to show me on a daily basis that he is the basis for everything. He's what grounds everything.
No, in contradistinction to your hypothetical Blinky the Clown thing, the Christian worldview is predicated on revelational objectivity, millennia of history, and metaphysical concreteness, right? So that the Christian has tangible justification in the Bible, historical evidence, etc., from a God who has revealed himself to all people, including you, mind you, right?
No, yes, so has Blinky the Magic Clown.
No, you're just making that up. You don't have anything tangible.
Oh, so I'm just making that up, but you're not.
Yeah, I have something tangible.
Okay,
you don't have
gotcha,
anything tangible.
So your presupposition of God is more valid than my presupposition of Blinky the Magic Clown.
My presupposition has something tangible to give it a metaphysical tether. You don't have a metaphysical tether to
Wait,
Blinky
how
the
do you know?
Clown.
How do you know that's true?
Because I have a tangible Bible and historical evidence of the church.
How do you know the tangible Bible is true? How do you know that's reality?
Do you have any other questions? Because this is a fail.
Well, how do you know that's reality?
Because God revealed it. So
how do you know that was reality also? How do you know God just didn't hallucinate that for you?
Thank you for coming. Have a nice day.
Oh, funny. Nice. Picked a hole in it. Nice. Have a nice day, right?
You're being
Run, keep running,
emotional.
running, Rick. Keep
I'm
running,
not.
boy.
I
Run
answered all
out,
your.
run off, boy.
Okay. But you're being emotional. I answered all your questions, and you're being emotional, right? So,
No,
like, I'm looking to talk to
I just
rational
poked a hole
people.
for your logic. I just showed how stupid the transcendental argument is. It's
Sir.
Blinky the Magic Clown.
You're being very emotional. I'm trying to talk to rational people.
I just destroyed your logic. I don't know what else there is to say. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Looking-
All you have to say is, "Oh, you're being emotional."
Yeah, we're looking for emotional and mature people. I mean, rational and mature people, not emotional
Nice
atheists.
deflection. Nice deflection. Nice cope. Actually, nice cope, not deflection. Nice cope.
I wish
Keep
you
injecting the
well.
copium.
I wish you well.
I wish you.
I was a total fail.
They just, I love it when I answer their question and they just ask me the same question over and over and over, like as if like my answer is gonna change or something. I don't get it. Welcome, Cass.
What's up, man? How you doing?
I'm doing well. Do you accept God as your creator?
You talking about like, am I a Christian? No, I'm not.
No. Do you believe in Blinky the Clown?
I mean, I think he's just as plausible as the Christian God.
Really? Well, I'm looking to talk to rational people. So,
Wait, wait, why does that make me like unrational?
well, because to compare the Christian God to Blinky the Clown, it's not. That's not. It's like a sign that you're like you're not a. Your mind can't differentiate between what's real and what's not real.
Okay, I feel like it's just like more so like the title that you have like an issue with, right? I heard you like talking to the guest before. You said that only Christians can have revelations. Is that what you said?
Revelation would refer to like Judaism, Islam, and Christianity. Yeah.
So what you're saying is like that couldn't be like revelation, let's say in like Buddhism, like they don't have revelations.
I don't believe so. No, I think that would just be the Abrahamics would have revelation.
No, but like, would you like deny a revelation given to you by a Buddhist? Like a Buddhist said, "Oh, I had a revelation from the Buddha." How do you deny that revelation?
Because revelation is a concept in like Abrahamic faiths. The other
revelation can be extended to like any branch of religion.
I don't think that's true.
Would you like for me to like Google the definition of like what a revelation is, so I can give you like the word for word definition? Because I know it's not specific to like Christianity.
I don't think that's going to be this topic requires nuance. So
yeah, and that's what I'm saying. Like, what gives more credence to like Christian revelation than like other revelation?
You can't deny like the transcendental argument for God proves that Christian revelation is the case.
No, and that's fine. I'm not denying Christian revelation, right? But what I'm saying is like, what gives it like more credibility than like, again, if somebody who's Buddhist said, I had a revelation from Buddha.
They don't have, only Islam, Judaism, and Christianity have revelation. The other religions don't have revelation.
But wait, how can you make that assumption when we know that's not like the truth?
I'm not making that assumption.
Okay, do you know who Swartha, the Buddha, the very last incarnation of Buddha who walked Earth? They said he had a revelation when he was born.
Yeah, but it'd be
that he was going to become like the Buddha.
It'd be a different sense of the word. So words would have like different meanings. So in the content, like the type of revelation of Christianity is going to be limited to the Abrahamics.
Again, like, wait, I'm, you're still not like answering like the question though. Like, you're saying that only Christians can have revelations. That's what you're getting at, right?
No.
So then who else is included? Okay, wait, only Abrahamic religions can have revelations.
Yes, only the Abrahamic religions have revelation.
But who made that rule?
It's just the way it's defined. Because it's a specific thing to a specific, like, a specific context, specific meaning.
Okay, real quick, right? I'm gonna tell you what a revelation is, right? And then you tell me if it like fits your like description of what it is, okay?
It doesn't matter. No, let's not do that.
Why? Yeah, because like I'm just trying to figure out like how one is more true than the other when they both have like the same standard of like proof.
Dude, this isn't
Because the standard of proof is just like faith, right?
No.
So how can you prove to me that like a Christian person had a revelation? How could you prove it to me?
A Christian person, you have no idea what you're talking about. We don't just like sit here and like receive a revelation from God in my brain.
All right, so it says, all right, hold on. General revelation refers to the knowledge of God or the divine that is available to all people through nature, reason, and the observation of.
What the frick is wrong with people? Welcome.
Hello, thank you.
What do you got?
Well, nothing. I just wanted to see why you disagree with atheism.
Well, I think you can't rationally deny the Christian God. So I take atheism to be like an emotional position.
Okay, that makes sense. How do you rationalize the Christian God?
I make a transcendental argument for God, right? That like God is necessary for like facts or evidence in the first place, something like that.
Okay, whose transcendental argument? Like just a general one, or is there an interpretation you like to use?
I'm not. Well, like the argument comes from Van Til originally.
Okay, what does it specifically entail? Like, what are the premises and stuff?
It'd be like intelligible experience if and only if the Christian worldview is true. We have an intelligible experience. Conclusion, the Christian worldview is true. And so you basically, if you deny that, you'd be engaged in a performative contradiction, because we would show that how like any time you behave in a way that the world is intelligible, then you're assuming that the Christian worldview, because only the Christian worldview can make the world intelligible.
And how is that the case?
For us to like know from the world and for us to learn from our experiences, our mind has to be in contact with the objects of knowledge. And the creator-creature distinction, which is a metaphysical assumption and we get from the Bible. Since God created the world and created our minds, it makes sense that like he designed our mind and our senses to accurately reflect a real physical external world. And if you deny that, you'd have no reason to think that like your senses or your thinking are accurately reflecting the world, because they wouldn't be intended to do so. It would just be like your thinking, your senses would be the result of an accident or something.
Well, if we granted the conclusion that atheism was true and that life evolved, wouldn't it make sense that in order to survive through natural selection, it would be ideal for your senses to be able to transmit accurate information about the world around you?
No, because you could easily rationalize the opposite, that like humans who had inaccurate senses survived better for some reason.
But how would that be the case?
Perhaps like anytime they heard a rustle in the bush, they ran thinking it was like a predator, but like maybe it was only a predator like a fraction of the time. But because of that thinking, they survived better, but it was an incorrect thinking.
Well, yeah, but you would only, and that's a correct statement, what you just said, but that would only have been the case if humans had the capability to learn the true thing, which is that a rustling in the bushes could result in a predator killing you. That's a true statement that you had to discern before making the false one.
Well, it's just
So
it's just
all that proves is that the human mind is fallible. It doesn't prove that it can't ascertain any knowledge.
but evolution just gets you to survivability. It doesn't get you to truth. So it wouldn't make sense or wouldn't follow to say that like, oh, we can trust our thinking because it evolved to be accurate. You're like begging the question, basically.
I don't. That's not necessarily what I'm appealing to. I'm just saying that and I might have been misconstruing what your original argument was, but the idea that because if the human mind evolved that we can't know any accurate information, I think that is at a baseline incorrect, because we can obviously know some accurate things about our environment.
Yeah, right. So we'd have to be able to explain how is that possible, right? And only Christianity makes that possible. If you deny Christianity, then it wouldn't make sense that we can like learn from our environment or think correctly about our environment.
How is that the case when we just established that? I just established, and you kind of didn't refute, that if we did evolve, it would make sense if we could discern accurate information about our environment.
No, it wouldn't make sense.
Okay, but how is that the case?
Because there's nothing connecting your mind to the environment.
Your mind exists within the environment.
Sure. But there's a conceptual realm. Like, our sentences aren't in the environment, right? They're in a conceptual realm, or like math. So we have these concepts, like language.
And these concepts are rooted in the mind, which is in the environment.
How do you connect the concept to the world?
To what the concepts we use to describe and understand the world.
Right. So I'm asking, for that to be possible, there has to be a connection between the concept and the world. If there's no connection, then it doesn't make any sense to think that the concept accurately reflects what you think it does. And God provides that connection. Without God, there's no connection. So there's no reason to trust any of your concepts now, or to think your concepts are actually reflecting an external reality. Like, you don't even know what reality is.
But okay, wait. So if there is a baseline truth that we can discover accurate things about our environment, how can that also be true at the same time as we don't even know what reality is?
So look, we can learn from our environment. Now we just ask the question, what is necessarily the case for that to be true? And it's going to be the Christian God, right? So the fact that we can learn from our environment proves the Christian God. It's the only explanation for that to be true. There's no other explanation that can account for how we can learn from their environment. It's that simple. That's how we prove God. It's so easy.
Okay, I don't think that's right, but that's cool. I hope you have a good day.
Okay, why?
Well, I just explained why, and I feel like we're arguing past each other, so I don't want to get
Let me
you
draw
into
it. Let me draw it for you. How about that?
Yeah, well, I was gonna drop, so I hope you have a good day.
Run away.
Hey man, how are you?
I'm doing well. Just presenting logical proofs to irrational atheists. How are you?
I'm fine, thanks. My name is Jubin. What's your name?
Yeah, I can draw it. I'm Mars.
Mars. Nice to meet you, man. I wanted to bring this argument with you that do you believe that Jesus or God is an all-loving being?
Yes.
He's an all-loving Father. He is capable of doing anything he wants, and he controls everything, correct?
Yep.
Why wouldn't God stop natural causes like tsunamis and, a tsunami that killed 400,000 people, like I think 2 years ago? Why wouldn't God stop that?
Because due to the fact that we rebelled against God, He allows temporarily unpleasantries. It's part of the process of the redemption of man, and there will be an ultimate good where we are redeemed, and there'll be a new heaven and a new earth without suffering and death.
So God is so loving that he wants to sacrifice 400,000 innocent lives for us?
Well, you wouldn't even have a life. God gave you the gift of life, so what makes you think you're entitled to anything?
When you
have a
give
life,
someone something, you take it back because you didn't want to? Have you ever taken back a gift?
Well, sure, but like, I don't understand. Like, how can you complain? Like, life and death are God's prerogative. He gets to determine who lives and who dies. That's his job. It's his job
Sure,
description.
but I'm just saying, if God loved me so much that he created an entire planet for me, he sent me a prophet to follow and get life instructions from, wouldn't he be also lovingly enough to not kill me without me being able to do anything about it?
Well, I don't know. Like, don't you think he can judge better than you about like
Sure,
what's
he
right
can,
and
but
wrong?
I'm asking you, what do you think? Why does he do that? Why does he kill 400,000 innocent people?
Well, I don't know specifically why he would do that, but he created the world. There was no death and suffering. Death and suffering is unnatural. That's not a part of his design. That was because we rebelled. So that's like our fault.
Wouldn't it make more
And
sense if God covered, like, brought 500,000 rapists and murderers and,
can't say
you know,
these words. I can't say these words. I have to drop you.
So, to answer his question, God didn't give us the earth. He simply lets us live here. So he wouldn't be taking back his gift or anything like that. He would just be changing the earth that we live in. And yeah, I agree with you, Mars. God basically listened to us and took a step back from the earth. And now there is chaos, natural disasters, and a bunch of other things.
Yes. The natural disasters are a result of the corruption that entered not just mankind but the world because we rebelled against God. Okay, so here's the drawing of the argument. Okay, notice we have so this is us, man. This is the world. The question is, how can man know the world? So, in our model of knowing things, we have God that designs the world, and God designs our mind. So you have these two different realms. You have a conceptual realm of our mind, and then you have this external physical reality of the world. So how do we connect the mind, the internal realm, to the world, the external realm? There needs to be a connection between these realms. God is the single unifying principle with causal powers that provides a connection. You need a unifying principle. That's the connection. So if you deny God, you're denying that which is necessary to know the world, because this unifying connection is necessary to know the world. Therefore, God's necessary, and the denial of that, you're left explaining how can we connect these realms, the realms of the mind with the realm of the world. And that is how we prove God in a drawing. For all you people who don't seem to understand the argument, sometimes a visual representation can help, right? I get it. That didn't prove much. Yeah, okay. I literally just proved Christianity.
Well,
Welcome, Ola Ola.
hello. So, why do you believe in God? What's your evidence for God?
It's a transcendental argument of God that God is necessary for evidence, and so to deny God would be to deny evidence.
Necessary for evidence? And what do you mean by evidence?
Like a good reason to think something's true.
You can't do that with the laws of logic.
No, the laws of logic are going to require God because you're going to need an absolute identity statement like the Christian God to have the law of identity, to uphold and secure the identity of any identity of anything. So God's like necessary to have identity statements.
But I thought the laws of logics were axioms that were just accepted.
Well, some people take that route, but when we debate, we can't have axioms. We have to provide reasons for our positions.
Yeah,
because I could just say God's an axiom and then I win the debate.
Why do you need this for the laws of logic, though?
Because for the law of identity to be true, right, there has to be something that limits the states of existence of what. Think of an apple. If there's nothing limiting the apple state of existence, then the apple state of existence would have no limit. Would you agree to that?
Yeah.
So there's no limit to the state of existence of the apple. Then the apple could be like an orange or like anything. It could exist. Its properties could just be anything. They'd be random and unlimited. Just because there's no limit to its state of existence. But we don't see that. We see things that have a limit to their state of existence. Well, God is that absolute like identity statement that would limit the identity statement of the apple. So the apple's properties, like it's the apple shape. It's like red. It's sweet. It's crisp when you bite into it. These properties are maintained and imposed by the absolute identity statement that is God. If you deny that, then you're going to need another absolute identity statement to explain.
Isn't that just the law of identity?
The law of identity is not absolute, no. The law of identity requires an absolute identity statement for there to be a law of identity, to impose and secure the identity of things.
No, it doesn't. The law of identity is an axiom.
Thanks for coming. I'm looking to talk to rational people. I wish you well. All they do is contradict. No, it isn't. No, it doesn't. This guy's been waiting forever. Destroyed. I mean, dude, you can't. I mean, nuh-uh. That's what I get. It's like you need an identity statement to uphold and impose the identity of anything in existence. And then they go, nuh-uh. It's like, oh, great. What a great conversation. Yeah, I never considered nuh-uh. You know, you've really like that guy said I was closed-minded. Yeah, I didn't think about nuh-uh. Well, now that you said nuh-uh, you're right. Like, I never considered nuh-uh. Yeah, nuh-uh. Oh, why didn't I think of that? You know, God exists. And then they go, nuh-uh. I'm like, oh, man. Nuh-uh. Oh, my. You're right. Right? Because I presented a proof, and then you say, nuh-uh. I never thought, like, what about nuh-uh? I didn't even consider it. Like, dude, I'm so stupid, right? Like, I should have just known that nuh-uh. You know what I mean? Like, why didn't I know that? That's obvious.
Yeah, like we give them evidence, like a demonstration, even like out of gratitude, and that's what we get back.
Really? What you got, kid?
I didn't want to come in. I didn't want to come up.
Well, you were requested.
No, it didn't. Why do you have to read a book about a book instead of the actual book, dude?
Why don't you read one book and then request to come up and tell us about it?
You're hilarious, dude. Why do you have to read a book about a book? That makes no sense.
You should do a book report for the live, right? Read a book, and then I'll let you come on and do a book report.
You're ridiculous.
Okay. Well, I wish you well.
Like,
that guy's very emotional.
That dude is a perfect example of the nuh. Oh my! Like you ask him why he comes up. You said he requested and he goes no. Like what is going on?
So Midnight.
Great claim. God exists. Now prove it's true. Transcendental arguments trash because you can insert any God in there. Next.
You can't just assert any God. I couldn't say
you're asserting your God. So move on. Give me your best evidence.
I couldn't say like potato chips are the necessary condition for intelligibility.
Why not?
Because potato chips don't have the attributes set to satisfy.
That's your opinion.
Conditions for intelligibility.
Yeah, but Odin does. So Odin
it's
works.
It's not my opinion. It's an objective proof. Okay. Well, thanks for coming. You seem
you're such garbage.
Okay, well, I'm looking to talk to
trash. You know that, right?
Being emotional. I'm looking to talk to rational
You're
people.
being insufferable, and you won't have an actual conversation. If you actually want to have a conversation, then keep me up instead of kicking me when you go wham wham. I can't say anything else.
It says debate, right? I'm presenting a logical argument. You're being emotional. I don't care.
Your logical argument sucks for your God. I need better evidence than that because I can stop. I can make the same logical argument for Lisa the Rainbow Giraffe. So therefore, your logical argument is terrible. So that means you need to find one that's unique to your deity. Let's do it.
That's not true because you couldn't say like.
Tell me how it's not true. Tell me how I can't insert my deity.
Remember what I said about? Do you remember what I said about potato chips?
Tell me how I can't insert my deity into your argument.
Because it doesn't have the sufficient conditions to satisfy intelligibility.
What conditions? My deity is intelligent.
Bro, I'm looking to talk to rational people. Why do you want to come
I can be more rational. You're just refusing to have an actual conversation, engage your brain. It's put the script down for a minute and have a conversation. I'm trying here.
I feel like if I talk to you, I'll get a violation for ableism.
So if you're just going to insult me, you're just proving you don't even want to.
What's up?
Welcome, Edward.
How you doing? I'm a Christian. I just love listening to you. But anyway, I think you need to make a video with the Whitney Houston song in the background. I get so emotional, baby. Right?
For real, dude.
Yeah. It's crazy. It's crazy. Anyway, keep doing what you're doing. It's fun.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate you.
Yep. Talk to you later.
Man, it's nice when the Christians are supportive. I hate it when the Christians are like, you said a naughty word one time.
Yeah, I know, right?
Well, Paul wrote the shit word in the Bible.
Hey, that's true.
I don't know. Sometimes when I'm talking, man, I got a sailor mouth. What can I say? I don't think it's that bad as long as I love people and I love God. Is it really that bad that I drop a few F-bombs? Welcome, Gazoo.
Greetings, sir. I hope you're doing well.
I'm doing well, yeah.
I really enjoy listening to you and all that, your interactions with Christians and non-believers as well. It's very entertaining and informative. I appreciate it. But I do have a question for you, kind of a clarifying question. So it's your position that it's the Christian God of the Bible that who has imposed the uniformity of nature. Is that accurate?
Yeah, through divine providence.
Okay, so yeah, he imposed the uniformity of nature. Is that to imply that? Let's see if I can word this right. Is that to imply that the default position of nature is not uniform and it's? Yeah, I'll put it right. I'll stop right there.
I don't really. I mean, if something is a default position, I don't know. Darth knows more about this than that I do, but he says like even if it's a default position, you still have to have a reason for like why it's the default position. So the idea is that like we experience uniformity of nature. It's sort of undeniable because it's necessary for like science, for example. And then it's like, well, what is the reason for it? and only really Christians have a good reason. Like, there's no real good reason from a secular response. They kind of just ignore the problem.
Okay, I guess what I'm getting at, thank you, I appreciate it. I guess what I'm getting at is I'm trying to do kind of a worldview comparison, because in the Christian worldview, you have this creator, and this creator is solely responsible for certain attributes of nature. And one of the attributes is the uniformity. And if you compare that with the not God world, then you lack certain qualities. And one of the qualities is uniformity of nature, correct?
Well, you would lack the ability to explain it, I guess. Like, there'd be no reason to think nature's uniform. So you'd lack like a justification.
Okay. So me being an atheist, I guess from your perspective, it's like, hey, Gazoo, you reap all of the benefits of the Christian world and the Christian worldview and the Christian God. The only thing is that I'm not basically acknowledging what I'm experiencing. It's not that I'm in a different world. I'm in the same world as you, but I'm just like blind to the source and the cause of the things that I experience in this world. Is that accurate?
The way I think of it is like we both live our lives like there's uniformity of nature. We both agree it's true. And the difference is just like my background beliefs are more consistent because they can like provide a reason that it's true, whereas your background beliefs make it like impossible to justify that. So it's like your background beliefs are sort of inconsistent with how you live and think. So that's sort of a cognitive dissonance that you would have that I don't have.
The cognitive dissonance. There you go. That's good. I'm glad you brought that in. So yeah. So because whenever you were given an example about the apple and everything to a previous guest up here, I was thinking that you cannot be under the impression that non-believers such as myself actually expects an orange to randomly grow on an apple tree.
Yeah, I don't think that, but you have to explain like why we see this world with the consistency where that doesn't happen, right? Because that doesn't happen in our world. They stay the same. Things stay the same.
I got you.
So then the question is like, well, why does this stay the same? And it's like going to be like God's going to be like necessary to explain that. So the denial of God's sort of a cognitive dissonance between like what you're experiencing, what you believe, how you live, and like your background beliefs.
But I guess right. But to take it one step further, is that you're not in the position that you actually think that atheists such as myself actually expects chaos like an orange growing on an apple tree. In reality, it's just what you were saying, cognitive dissonance.
What they'll say there's like an illusion of design. Have you ever heard that? Sometimes they'll say that because it's hard for them to explain. We see this order and this like apparent design. We seem to experience that, and so they have to say it's basically a fantasy or an illusion. Right. Whereas we as a Christian, I can say it's real because it's going to make sense with my background beliefs.
Right.
So it's just kind of weird to like deny these. It seems like these things are so obvious that this design, it's so obvious to the people where they have to say there's an illusion of design. It's like they're just not willing to take that step because I think it's just because of their bias.
Right.
I don't know. If you're willing to get to the point, well, I see an illusion of design. It's like, just admit it's a design. Like, why were you going to say that's an illusion?
Yeah, just for the record, I've never made that statement, never held that position. But I do know, because you did not imply that. You said you've heard other people say that. So yes, I have heard others say that. But
a lot like atheist scientists will say this, right? Because they study the world and they see the design. Scientists firsthand study nature. They see this design. So I was watching, like, it was a conference of, I don't know, top atheists or something. I think some of them were scientifically trained, and they were talking about, the illusion of design. So I didn't credit that to you, but anyways.
No, I got you. Okay, well, thank you as always. I really appreciate the engagement and everything. But I'm going to step back down, and whenever I have other topics, then I hope that you allow me to come up.
Yeah, of course, you're always welcome here. I'm probably gonna get off here soon too. I'm getting kind of hungry.
Take care, buddy. Thank you again.
Yeah, you too. Take care. Speaking of all this uniformity, made me hungry. That's another type of uniformity, anyways. Welcome.
Hello.
Hello. So do you accept God?
No, no, God does not exist.
Oh my gosh, why don't you believe in God?
I mean, what is there for me to believe? He does not exist.
Yeah, but like, why do you think that? Is your position rational?
So I want to ask you, like, what is God for you? Because you're
a
claiming
necessary
it exists.
mind. Yeah, God's going to be like the necessary mind that created the world. But I'm claiming also that you can't rationally deny it, right? Do you think you can rationally deny God?
Yes.
So what would be the rationale for denying God?
That nobody's perfect. Tell me one perfect person that God has created.
Jesus.
I mean, that's only according to Christians.
Well, how else would you have like a standard for what's perfect?
There's really none. So there's really no perfect being, right?
So there's no perfect being. I don't have a standard for what's perfect, but there's no perfect being. Like, this is not making sense, dude. This is not rational.
So God should be perfect, but because perfect does not exist, God should not exist either.
Yeah, but you're just defining God into not existence. You're saying God. I think God is perfect.
You're defining into existence according to certain dogma only, that is Christian or Muslim or Hindus or Buddhist, which is many.
I don't define God into existence. He reveals the facts about his existence to us as Christians. It's not definitional, and then we argue it's true because it's the only paradigm that makes sense. You can't rationally deny it, because then you'd have no basis.
Rationally deny? Like, what do you mean, like, rationally deny?
Like, there's no good reason to think God doesn't exist.
I mean, like, how is that, like, rationally? So, you know what
to be
ration
rational
means?
Yeah,
it
to
can
have
be
a good
rationed.
reason.
No, it can be rationed. That means it can be divided into different categories. You see, we're not dealing with mathematics right now.
No, rational, I'm saying, like, there's a good reason, like a logical reason to think something's true.
So you think that there's no logical reason not to think that God does not exist?
Correct. Because God's necessary for reason and logic.
Okay, so God is necessary for you to reason and logic, correct?
For everyone.
I mean, like, where am I using God right now to converse what I'm trying to say to you, and you understanding it like really perfectly?
So you're using unifying descriptions of reality when you're speaking to me. You're describing the world in terms of classes and categories of things, and there's only going to be.
No, I mean, like, I'm just saying, like, you're using words, right? You do understand what I'm trying to say, correct?
Yes.
I convey certain things.
Right, because God exists. That's
God. So what you're saying is that because God exists, not because English language exists, right? And we have certain presupposition to that English language, and you and I are reading to that presupposition language, and you're saying that other languages don't exist.
No.
Is that what I'm saying? And you're
no, I'm saying really, God's necessary for God's necessary for language, because language uses unifying descriptions of reality, and those can only be true and meaningful if there's inherent connections between things, because there's intention and design to the world.
There is an inherent connection to everything. That's why we have this world.
That means there's a God. That means there's intentionality.
So
the connections in the world are if there's inherent connections and like fixed meaning in the world, that means there's intention, and that means there's a God. There's a necessary mind then.
So a cat eats a rat because it is programmed, so God wants to eat it? Is that correct?
No, just because something happens in nature doesn't mean that's what God wanted.
So exactly, like, how does this God exist then? So how did God program or like let the cat know that, hey, go and eat the rat?
I don't know the mechanisms for how God does all that.
But you know he exists.
We know what God reveals. So he revealed, that he exists. He created the world and he created us. We know what the Bible
he
says.
did. I'm not arguing, like, of course the world created us. I mean,
no, God created us.
Something has to create.
Yeah, God's the creator. So what, do you believe in a creator?
And why does it need God for it to be a creator? Like, could it not be like, hey, like, I just kick this ball, and sometimes I'll play it like a soccer, and sometimes I'll play like a cricket, but it's still a ball, right? And as long as we both understand, like two wolves play game without even talking with each other, like, and they just body language and we understand, but we use language to play certain games, correct? Hey, you do this, I do this.
I have no idea.
If you don't do that, then you're out. You get certain things. And you can strike me as well, saying that, hey, if you speak like this for 3 more times, then I'll kick you out. Correct?
I can't follow what you're saying. I'm not following.
No,
I don't know what you're saying.
So why does it need God for this whole thing to exist? Like, why can it not just exist? Why does it need a God?
Because there's everything in creation would exemplify the ultimate intention and ultimate design, and you couldn't rationally deny that. It wouldn't just say there's no God. Reality would fall apart. So that the type of world where there's no God would not be consistent with the type of world that we experience. So
and this world you think is consistent? We are having the most peaceful time of our life, but in the same way, the people of Ukraine are having the worst time of their life. How is this consistent? There's the burning lava in one place, and there's freezing ocean in another place. How is this consistent? We have literally four different weathers, and each day we change from day to night. How is that consistent? Nothing is consistent. That's the point. It's only consistent in that it repeats itself. That's it.
No, the things we experience, we experience cause and effect, right? So God's necessary for cause and effect, right? So to deny God would be to deny cause and effect. Okay, we experience an external reality, right? So God's necessary to know what the external reality is. To deny God would be to say the external reality is a fantasy, right?
Isn't
We
it like
experience a lot
fantasy?
of it.
Like, what do you think
What?
is fantasy then? Is
Because
reality
how
not
would
a
you know?
fantasy in itself?
So metaphysics is reality as it actually is, and then science studies our perception of reality. And without God, all we would have is our perception of reality. We wouldn't know what reality actually is. And if you don't know what reality actually is, that means you're living a fantasy. So atheism is a
We never
fantasy.
know what
Because you
reality
guys
is
have,
because we're trying to find
exactly. So
reality through the lens of
exactly.
certain
And
other elements of reality.
you can only know that through God. So when you deny God, your life becomes a fantasy. So that's why you should believe in God so you can be a realist. You don't have to live a
If you
fantasy.
don't believe in God, your life becomes a fantasy, right? Then you can live however you want. Isn't that even like better? Because without
I don't know.
God, your life
I mean,
literally is a fantasy. Like
I
literally,
think
think about that. You're living in a
I
fairy
think
tale.
well, I'd rather live in the real world than a fantasy. I think that's better. Like I don't think pretending
I mean,
things that
it's
are
what
true.
you're saying is that if God isn't real, right? God isn't real. If God isn't real, the world becomes a fantasy,
Yes.
right? And if the world becomes a
Yes.
fantasy, you can do whatever you want.
Right, and that's what we see, right? People just do whatever they
Yes,
want. They don't believe in God.
we
Yeah.
can do however you want, but how you do it is also going to be important then. Because if you could
Right,
do
but
whatever you want, right, you'll try and see a lot of options and see like, hey, if I do this, what would happen? If I do this, what would happen? If I do this, what would happen? You become a master of your own thing, but you play
Sure.
it like a game.
Sure.
You see? And now you want to maximize the point, don't you?
Well, I'm a realist. I want to believe in the real world, and I want to believe things that are true. I don't want to
Yeah,
believe
but
lies.
do you not want to maximize the life you have? Because you want to maximize how you want to live, don't you?
Sure, but just lying to yourself and thinking things are
No, not
the way
lying, living in reality, but like a fantasy.
fantasy.
Because now
No,
God does not exist.
you're
You can
contradicting
create
yourself.
whatever you want.
Exactly. So that then nothing means anything.
No,
There's no
everything
point to.
means now because this is your fantasy now, not no, but nobody else's. You see, you're the only one who can live that fantasy.
Yeah, the life is just like a dream. Like it doesn't matter. I want to live
Isn't
in the
that the
real
best?
world.
Life is a dream. Like, what if it's a dream?
No, the best
What if
is to
you
live in
can
the
do something
real
in life
world.
that even where people say that, hey, this is what I did in life, but people don't believe you because that should not be possible. You know, like why everyone likes science? Because at one point you take a guess game with nature. You see, you can say like, hey, if this happens, then what should happen? And they imagine. They have to imagine like so much that, and now they come to conclusion that, hey, this should be more true because I have imagined what could happen if this is the case. You see,
So
imagination.
I'm imagining
Everyone
my
lives in
life.
fantasy. Scientists are
Yeah.
the people who live in fantasy the most. This world is made to be lived in fantasy.
This is right. This is your brain atheism,
And
folks.
you literally have the answer if God does not exist. Fantasy.
Right now with my life. Yeah. Yeah, I'm